Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and this is a little bit different video than what we normally do. I mean, like, we do wrestling content, so I guess it's not too completely out of the blue, but we're going to talk about Raw today as a show in whole, and what can we do to fix it? There's a lot of different stuff that, maybe you don't even think it needs to be fixed. That could be the very first part. I do think any show at all could always, use a little bit of a facelift, could use a little bit of here, a little bit of that. And Raw is no, exception to that. They have a lot of stuff that they struggle on week out and week out of different stuff. I do think out of the four main shows being NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, they're SmackDown right in the middle, smack dab in the middle. I try to make the pun, but it screwed up. But they're right in the middle of it. Like, they're not the worst show, not the best show, but they're a pretty solid show every week. They have some good moments and they have some bad moments, and let's just kind of jump into it. So we'll kind of talk about each scene in the in Raw, and we'll try to go from there. We'll start with the men, and then we'll get to the women, and then just overall, if there's anything, if it's adding superstars, if it's adding talent from NXT, there's so much stuff they can do. So let's just jump into it. So obviously, the main event scene right now is kind of just hovering around Seth Rollins as champion. So it's kind of just CM Punk. LA Knight, Jey Uso is kind of there. Gunther is not currently on the show, but he's there in the hiding. He's going to appear at some point. I do think the better call would be that automatically the first move I would do if I was Raw GM and this was a real thing, and just to make the show better, not necessarily that the talent would be better, but I would send Gunther to SmackDown. I think it would solidify SmackDown's main event scene a lot better. So if we go over SmackDown, that's exactly the first thing I'm going to say that we need over there. It's not like that Raw doesn't have a lot of talent up there, so they really don't need to use that. Because speaking of it, you have so many good people up there that you can rotate in a better way. Because right now, their main event scene is just having the Vision versus whoever, or one of the Vision members versus somebody. And that's kind of what the main events are on 90% of the Raws. And they really need to fix that. And the best pace is to introduce somebody fresh and new. So a trade would be the best case. Get Gunther out there where he could go against Cody Rhodes. He's had great matches against, Randy Orton, even Drew McIntyre has been great. Put him over there on SmackDown. I think that would help. And I think bringing over not necessarily anybody from SmackDown, but maybe from NXT. I do think that Trick Williams would be a great person to bring up there. He's a weird character where, like, he's just so charismatic that he could go in there and be around that main event scene, and it would make it great. But I think you definitely need more because, yeah, he's going to be good and it's going to last for a certain amount of time, but he's not going to have, like, that ability to just stay over there. He's going to have to be, like, rotated with other ones. But I also think Ethan Page would be a great person. I think bringing in that NXT talent right then and there is just that lifeblood right tap to the side, because it really brings up the mid card, brings up everything. And I do think that the IC title is not necessarily in a bad spot, but I feel like Dom needs to drop it, mainly because I think Dom should be going for bigger and better prizes. I think he could definitely be in that world heavyweight contention, where obviously would bring up some more jealousy from Finn Balor, who should be also be looking in there that way. But the IC title should go to somebody super young, like I said, Trick Williams. Ethan Page is not really on the young side, but he'd be great for the promo side. Like, he could do that. It could be a really great title on somebody else that could be doing a lot more matches. Dragon Lee, like, there is so much good talent on Raw. Penta, like, all of that would be a absolute mid card that would cook when for rotations, the Grande Americano, like, all of that would be just some great ideas to make that IC title pop. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, you take it away from Dom. Dom's been great. It's nothing against him. It's just purely because I think he's outgrown the title, that he should be doing other things. And if you let it go to other, let him move on and let everything else go, there's a lot that can happen. And then the next big fin on the men's fin, it's the biggest fix that they need, because this is almost non-existent, is the tag teams. there's so many good tag teams on Raw that we should have it like SmackDown, where we have tag team matches almost every week and have a rotation of just matches and first contender matches and titles going all over the place. Because honestly, we got a great thing. We got the American Made. We have, you could even say Alpha Academy, because like, they could be a good jobber team to kind of get in there and get some wins for other people. You got the War Raiders. You got the New Day. You have the Judgment Day, who have the current titles. They need to drop it as soon as possible. And you have a whole multitude of different stuff. Even the two Grande Americanos on the side that are an actual tag team. You know, with being Tyler Bate and God and Pete Dunne. That's another tag team that could go in there. There's just so much stuff. The LWO is also there. Like, you were talking about like at least 7 or 8 tag teams that almost get no screen time because the tag division's pretty dead, and they don't need it to be. The tag titles don't need to be on the Judgment Day. Once the women lost it, they really don't need it on the men anymore, because their whole story that they're telling is for Dom. Those tag team titles are just there. They need to lose them as soon as possible and give this division like a 2 to 3 month reign for each team and just rotate it into the great stuff that, you know, SmackDown's done. SmackDown has made a solid tag division. They have a show that has a multitude of problems, and that's not one of them. That is by far their brightest star over there, and that could be easily said on Raw too. So hopefully they do something like that, and that pretty much includes the men. I mean, obviously there's more that they could do with just, you know, shifting talent around, but I try to do as minimum work with that because we don't know if we're actually going to get a draft or anything moved. But I really feel like Gunther over to SmackDown would be great. Couple NXT guys up there. I think that those moves would be great for everybody involved, because Gunther will have so many new feuds and so many, like, it's like they're new feuds, but they're like stuff that we've seen, you know, with, you know, Gunther and Cody Rhodes being in the Royal Rumbles. You know, we've seen him face Randy Orton. We've seen him, you know, face Drew McIntyre and Sheamus for like the IC title. Like, there's just so much good stuff over there. Gunther versus Solo would be a pretty interesting match too. Like, there's just a lot. So yeah, Gunther over to SmackDown I think would be the best case. But yeah, now we go to the women. The main event scene is weird because obviously with Naomi being out, it changed everything. So if we just kind of move on to the future, we don't know where it is with Stephanie and Io Sky being the 2 champions. So I guess we'll look at both of them. With Stephanie being champion, I think she just got to be a fighting champion. I think she should just have matches all the time, even just on a week-to-week basis, defending that title against anybody and everybody that's on the roster. Like, it should just be nonstop because she's done so great with just being a fighting champion. I think that should be what her signature is on Raw, and it would really bring up the women's division on Raw and bring up the division in general and the show on Raw, because they could rotate some of those being main events, and I think it would make the other stuff seem more like less mundane, because, or like, you know, over and over again, because they'd be not always shown. So I think all of that would be a best idea for that. So going into that, if you go to Io Sky, she obviously has, you know, Rhea Ripley, who's kind of her friend but wants the title back. She has Asuka, who's gonna be jealous, and obviously just anybody else can have a great match with Io Sky. If they booked Io Sky the way that they booked her the last month or two when she had the title before, she would have had a great title reign. And I think if they do the same thing, she should be another one that takes on all comers. Like, hey, open challenge, bam, face somebody, beat somebody. I think there's so much stuff that Io could do, so I would be fine with either one being champion. And obviously you have Rhea Ripley in the roiding for the winner, so you already got a golden feud right after that. So the women's main event scene is doing fine. You also have like Lyra Valkyrie that could definitely be subbed in there, who's doing a phenomenal. Her and Bailey either being tag team partners or feuding is going to be great in that mid card. But then we get to the IC title, and it's a little stuck because I think the way that it was booked before with Becky Lynch, it was great. But now that she's joining the Vision and now she's kind of in a bigger thing, it's kind of like one of those things where that title is going to take a little bit of a back seat because of bigger and better things going on. So eventually it will be that, you know, we'll see the title again, but it's probably going to be, you know, maybe AJ Lee taking it off. Now, if AJ Lee gets it, I think that title thing will be so great because there's so many feuds and so much stuff that people have wanted for years when they've been thinking that she was going to come back to having on that, and they could have that as a like intercontinental open challenge, which we've never seen women have open challenge, and she would be a phenomenal idea of person to do that. Like, and they could even have John Cena gift it to her too. I know they gave it to Sami Zayn, but like they could have that some promo or something with that. They could do something, and it would be a great handoff to making that mid card even better. And yeah, I mean, I would say the tag teams, but there's really not much of a tag team division. It's just kind of people that form together and stuff. I mean, we have the Kabuki Warriors, we have Judgment Day, so we have some tag teams there, but I don't think other than being like a number one contender, you're not going to get a lot of that type of stuff. But if they just shore up that mid card with the IC title on somebody else, I think the tag division and everything else could be really used in just areas to getting the feud going further without having to do too much else. But yeah, that's how I'd fix Raw. All right, we got 10 minutes we did here, so maybe they'll listen. I doubt it because I'm just a small channel, but I just like to do these type of things. I try to think about if I was in that position. I think all of us fantasy book and do all that type of stuff in our own free time, but I like to say it here and tell me what you guys think. What do you guys think we could do to fix Raw? And if you guys like these videos, I would love to do SmackDown, NXT, which really doesn't need much, and maybe even Evolve because that's one of my favorite shows too. So if you guys like all that type of stuff, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.